there's debate, right, whether Hitler should be placed on the left or the right, the
Oh
extreme of the left or
boy.
right,
Oh
right?
boy.
I'm
I
thinking
think
Yeah,
extreme
that's
left.
cope.
Not gonna lie. I think extreme left
I'm
sounds
I'm
about right.
sorry. I'm sorry, but that's cope.
okay,
Yes,
where would
I
you
I
place him?
I would say that um the ideology of National Socialism, because the way that like Hitler, like Adolf Hitler specifically executed it, that could be debated. But I want
Yeah,
to talk specifically about the ideology that Hitler put into place, which is not traditional fascism, not really even esoteric fascism, but National Socialism, which had esoteric elements, but again, that's kind of I would say not really core to the base. The point is, um, Germany's National Socialism was supposed to be a third positionist framework. So there's essentially two primary political ideologies, back then that the fascist theory was supposedly giving an alternative option to, and that is socialism and capitalism. In the fascists' point of view, both lead to, degeneracy, wasted potential. Uh, we're not going to go down that route too far because, I'm going to
yeah.
be honest. I know way too much about political theory, and it gets very esoteric very quickly. But well, esoteric in multiple ways. But to hammer it home, essentially, the capitalists were greedy. The communists were greedy, but in a different way. They wanted to, steal from everybody, redistribute, you know, not very, they're like progressive, anti-traditionalist. The capitalists sell out culture. Fascists was proposed the third uh solution, the third way. Um, wait, fuck, hold on. I'm sorry. I need to make sure that I'm not like talking out of my ass real quick. Uh,
The power of editing. This will all be cut out.
This will all be wait.
This
Third
Oh,
position. Okay. Third position is a
yeah.
set of neo-fascist political ideologies that were first described in Western Europe following World War II. Developed in the context of the Cold War, I'm just reading off Wikipedia. It developed
what?
its name through
The
the
most
claim that
credible
that
source,
it represented
Wikipedia.
that it represented a third position between the capitalism of the Western Bloc and the communism of the Eastern Bloc. I was correct. I was correct. Okay, so basically, so you have capitalists, you have communists, and then the third position was fascism. But capitalism and communism are part of a dichotomy. So how do you make a third position in a dichotomy? Well, generally you combine aspects of the two with novel ideas. And that's what the Nazis were. What the nationalist framework of the National Socialists, and the social framework of the National Socialists were borrowed different aspects from the left wing and the right wing. The nationalism was to secure sort of a cultural, ethnic, racial identity, and the socialism was to ensure that everybody in that in group was cared for, and everything was equal and fair between them, at the price and subjugation of the outgroup. Initially the plan was to just sort of export and forcibly deport everybody who was not part of the in group, part of the racial hierarchy. But eventually it turned into, no, actually you can't leave. Come to my fun little ghetto. Go on my funny little train, and the rest of the story from there. So essentially, um, that was really fucking dark. I just realized I'm like, I'm saying it in this like sardonic, ironic tone, but I just realized I'm making light of the fucking Holocaust, which, oh boy. But basically, that was the sort of idea behind fascism and Nazism in particular as a third position between or away from capitalism and communism. The way where that sort of comes back into this is that Adolf Hitler and his Nazi regime isn't really left or right. I mean, in practice, it was very clearly an execution very similar to the USSR in a lot of ways, both in their propensity to genocide, in their absolute failure to care for their people, using very similar rhetoric. So I would say, to whatever degree you can call the USSR left, is to the degree that you could call the Nazis right. The problem is that both nations sort of fundamentally run on a communist framework, and obviously communism is left-wing. The difference lies in how they applied globalism versus isolationism. And of course, it's funny, because even though you might not get this from researching the USSR, they were also very isolationist and fairly nationalist. So I'm saying all this to say it's somewhere in the middle. I would probably put them closer to left than right, just because of the overarching socialist communist framework that defines the both of them, and also that fascism and socialism are very closely related in a lot of ways, not the least of which being their totalitarian natures. And I don't know about alt-right, because there are right-wing fascists, absolutely. But if you're like a lib-right, if you're like a libertarian or a centrist, or like just a general classical liberal, which has nowadays been put on the right by the Overton window moving, that's the exact opposite of you. So it really just comes down to how you think about politics and where you put people on the scale. I would say, in order from left to right, it would be the USSR, then Maoist China right behind, then the Nazis probably somewhere in the middle, and then like Mussolini's Italy a little bit closer to the right.
Interesting.
I kind of popped off there.
Worry about leaving a better planet for our kids. How about leaving better kids for our planet? Entire generation offended at everything, getting mad that a human thinks all lives matter. We don't need black or white or left or right. What we need is common sense. We need balance. We're all in the same boat. Why you trying to make holes? If they sink, we sink. This is madness.